Welcome, everybody. Let's go ahead and get started with today's presentation. On behalf of my co-chair, Charles Snyder, and our board of directors, I'd like to welcome you to today's luncheon. As you know, we're very honored to have two great honorary co-chairs, and they're both with us today. Ambassador Terry Branstad is here. And former Iowa Attorney General Tom Miller. Could I ask the members of the board just to stand up and be recognized too? We always appreciate your work and want to make sure we recognize our work. Well, we've all heard that there's a concerning increase in the incidence of anti-Semitism in the United States. And these incidents include harassment, vandalism, and assault. These incidents are occurring a lot on college and university campuses. We've seen a big increase since October of 2023. These trends highlight the persistent and growing challenge of anti-Semitism in the United States, emphasizing the need for continued vigilance and proactive measures to combat this issue. That's why we invited the American Jewish Committee, or AJC, to present its latest State of Anti-Semitism report, which is called SOAR for short. When you leave today, you'll have a better understanding of the current state of anti-Semitism, its impact on communities, and the steps that we can all take to combat this pervasive issue. The American Jewish Committee, or AJC, is a global advocacy organization for the Jewish people standing up for Israel's right to exist in peace and security, confronting anti-Semitism, no matter the source, and upholding the democratic values that unite us all. AJC works with leaders across society to support Israel and combat surging anti-Semitism, and they leverage strategic communication to educate, counter misinformation, and also shape public opinion. AJC has 25 regional offices and 15 international offices, as well as 38 partnerships with Jewish communities around the world and numerous content-based institutes. The AJC is a nonpartisan, centralist, and nuanced organization focusing on policy, not the politics. AJC creates trusted partnerships with leaders in the US and around the world to boldly advocate for Jewish people. Rachel Edelman is one of the assistant directors of advancement and engagement for AJC in Chicago. She's been with AJC since 2018, joining the AJC Chicago Regional Office in 2021. In her role, Rachel leads AJC's Chicago Leadership Advocacy and Diplomacy Fellowship and its virtual lead accelerator, and supports ongoing advocacy efforts within the AJC Chicago region and coordinates various engagement opportunities for AJC supporters. Throughout her career, Rachel has focused on advocacy, helping individuals learn how to advocate for themselves and how to advocate for others. Rachel holds a master's degree in higher education administration and policy from Northwestern University and a bachelor's degree in English and Jewish studies from The Ohio State University. She seems like a nice person. Please give her a warm ISI welcome.
Amazing. Tom, thank you so much. Again, I hope that you all won't hold it against me too much for my undergraduate. I will say I worked for Ohio State. We tried to soften but I'm really excited to be here with all of you. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So just give me one moment. All right, wonderful. Well, again, I am thrilled to be with you all today. While the topic of our conversation has a little bit more of a intense tone to it when we're talking about the state of anti-Semitism in America, I'm really grateful for the opportunity to be here and to share our 2024 State of Anti-Semitism report with you. So a little context about the report before I jump into all of the statistics and the details. This is the 6th year that AJC has published the SOAR report. Our first report came out on October 27th, 2019, so 1 year after the Tree of Life synagogue shooting. And the purpose and intent behind the survey was this desire to understand the impact of anti-Semitism on American Jews, especially in the year following the deadliest attack on our community in American history. The following year, in 2020, we produced the companion survey focusing on US adults, adding an additional layer of comparative data to how we can understand the general public perception and how they've witnessed anti-Semitism. So this report in 2024 is the first analysis of American Jews and US adults to be published in the US that shows the impact of anti-Semitism during the year following the terrorist attacks on October 7th, 2023. It's the first report to really analyze not only that full data set of a year after October 7th, but it's a half decade's worth of data of this type. So we can really draw some comparisons and see the true state of anti-Semitism as it is right now. So we'll be looking throughout the presentation at some comparative data between American Jewish perceptions, the general public, trained data, and then just the impact this past year has really had. So I will make sure to leave ample time for questions at the end. So please hold on to all of them, and I'm happy to answer them. All right, so just a little bit of the background and the methodology of how the data was collected before I go into kind of highlighting some of the key takeaways. So again, this was 2 parallel surveys, one of American Jews and one of the general public. AJC works with the public opinion research firm SSRS to create the questionnaire, put it in the field, and then analyze the findings. So again, it's the 6th time we've polled American Jews and the 5th time we've polled both American Jews and the general public. It's done in a mixed mode, both online and by phone, and it is the largest annual poll of its kind. So as you can see, we had over 1,700 American Jewish adults represented and over 2,000 US adult respondents as well. To put it in perspective, last year we surveyed over 1,200 US adults. So we are almost at twice that for this survey for 2024. 2024 was also the first year that both surveys were in the field at almost the exact same time. So the survey for American Jews was in the field from October 8th through November 29th of 2024, while the survey of the US general public was from October 10th to November 25th. So I just want to emphasize that both of these surveys were in the field and gathering answers to our questions a year after October 7th. So just the main takeaways of the presentation so that you all have an idea of what you'll be hearing throughout. We'll be talking about the impact of October 7th on American Jews and how it is just so truly undeniably impactful. Fear of anti-Semitism, experience with anti-Semitism, and how they've reached new levels. And then how US adults have become more aware and concerned about anti-Semitism, all leading towards a path forward and next steps and how we can all continue to combat anti-Semitism together. So again, we're going to start with the impact of October 7th, 2023, and truly how it has had such an impact on American Jews. It's the first comprehensive look at American Jews 1 year after October 7th. We explicitly asked American Jews whether they felt less safe as a Jewish person in America because of October 7th, and 77% said they did. I just want this to sink in that almost 80%, so 77%, we're already at 3/4 of those who were surveyed, felt less safe as a Jewish person in the US after October 7th. So this number really highlights an individual personal feeling of safety and is alarmingly high. We also asked American Jews whether their community is more secure, less secure, about the same as last year. 73%, almost 3/4, say Jews are less secure than they were a year ago, less secure than they were before October 7th. The difference between 2019 and today, which is shocking. I know on the screen you can see from 2021 and beyond, but just want to even pull from that 73% say Jews are less secure than a year ago, where only 31% had said that in 2021. That is an incredible jump in statistics. Not only you can see the increase between 21, 22 to 23, but that jump in those 3 years alone from 31% to 73 is extremely high and shocking. So now we're going to delve into a little bit more about experiencing anti-Semitism and how it's reached new levels. So we asked American Jews whether they think anti-Semitism has increased, stayed the same, or decreased in the past 5 years. And I want to point out that this reference point, the past 5 years, encompasses an American Jewish history, the Tree of Life attack, the deadliest attack against Jews in our country's history, as well as October 7th, let alone everything that happens on a daily basis in between. Over 9 in 10 American Jews say that anti-Semitism has increased in the past 5 years, either by a lot or has somewhat increased. This number was 87% in 2023 and 82% in 2022. So a 10% jump from 2022 to 2024. And it's especially driven by Jewish adults being more likely in this past survey to say anti-Semitism is increased a lot. So from 50% in 2023 to 60% in 2024. We also wanted to get an understanding of where American Jews are seeing and experiencing anti-Semitism. And we found that 67% of American Jews have either seen or heard anti-Semitic content online or social media in the past 12 months. Notably, I want to point out that 1 in 5 American Jews say seeing an online incident makes them feel physically threatened. So this is extremely important for us to have when we're talking about anti-Semitism online, which has grown exponentially. And speaking of that, I'm going to delve into a little bit more to understand where people are seeing this online and what platforms they're seeing it through. So the majority of American Jews are seeing anti-Semitism on the major platforms that we hear a lot about in the news. So Facebook, X, parentheses, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Not surprisingly for these 4, because these tend to be the ones that most American Jews report being on in their social and their daily lives. It's important to note that with this survey as a whole, we were only able to interview those who are 18 years and older. We do know that this 18% for TikTok doesn't reflect the anti-Semitism that all American Jews generally are experiencing on the platform, as that platform in particular attracts a much younger group that we just weren't able to survey. So one question that we always ask, in addition to looking at social media, is whether American Jews have been a personal target of anti-Semitism in the past year. So 1/3, 33%, say they were personally targeted, received personal targets of anti-Semitism in the past 12 months, either in person, online, or in both. Again, this number is much higher for a younger population that lives online, but again, we were only able to capture the data for those who were over 18 with this particular survey. So here we can see the breakdown of where American Jews were targeted by anti-Semitism. Whether it was a physical attack, an anti-Semitic remark in person, vandalism, messaging on their property, targeting on social media or online, and then another type of anti-Semitism not asked about specifically within this question. This number does change when we look at demographic groups, including by age, which we'll delve into a little bit in a moment. But for these incident types, 1 in 4 say that they were a personal target of anti-Semitism, both last year and the year before, but the ways in which people have been targeted has changed. From the data that I've shared so far, we've seen the numbers of how many American Jews were the victim of and experienced anti-Semitism, and what that's looked like. Yet anti-Semitism is severely underreported. 78% of American Jews who personally experience anti-Semitism did not report it. The majority of those that we've asked said they didn't report it because they didn't think anything would be done about it. This statistic is important both inside and outside of the Jewish community because policymakers and community leaders can't address the severity of anti-Semitism without fully understanding the scope of the issue. And without the data, they can't really have an accurate grasp of the situation. So the need to report is so important, both for Jews to report anti-Semitic incidents, as well as those in the community like law enforcement, civil society monitors, and others to report local and state hate crimes so that it can be a part of the data set in the federal database of hate incident reporting. Our report found that roughly 9 in 10 Americans say it's important that law enforcement be required to report hate crimes to a federal government database, but without folks who are willing to step up and to report these incidences, there won't be a data set that we can look to in order to combat anti-Semitism. Towards the end of the presentation, I'll also show some resources and kind of walk through about what it looks like and how you can report. One of the most consequential data points that we found in our entire survey was the way in which American Jews have changed their behavior in the last year. Over half of American Jews say they changed at least one of their daily behaviors out of fear of anti-Semitism. So I want to break down these numbers a little bit for you. 40% have said that they avoided publicly wearing or displaying things that might identify them as a Jew. That's up from 26% in 2023. It's an incredible jump. Folks aren't wearing their kippahs, their head coverings, Jewish stars, hamsas, even evil eye, any sort of identifying physical markers that identify them as being a Jew. 31% have avoided certain places, events, or situations out of concern for their safety or comfort of a Jewish person. It's up from 26% in 2023. And 37% say that they have avoided posting content online that would identify them as a Jew or reveal how they feel about Jewish issues, which was 30% in 2023. Excuse me. Just to give a personal context, I work for a Jewish organization. I live in Chicago. I'm involved in a plethora of different Jewish organizations. And I myself have difficulty sometimes wearing my amazing Judaica, as you can see by my earrings, when I'm on public transportation, when I'm walking through the streets of downtown. I feel that I always have to check to see what it is that I'm wearing. And I myself have noticed that I've started to change my own behaviors and hiding my own Judaism and being a Jew in public spaces. So this slide has a lot of different statistics, but what it really does is it highlights the different experiences of young Jews and how they are experiencing anti-Semitism more than those who are in the older demographics. So specifically, what we consider to be young Jews are those in the ages of 18 to 29. So those who are in college, grad school, early on in their careers, all the way up until that 29th year. If you take nothing else away from this slide, I want to draw your attention to the most staggering demographic, which is the difference from 30% of young Jews reporting being the target of anti-Semitism in person versus 21% of those who are older. That's almost a 10% increase between those who are young Jews experiencing in-person anti-Semitism more than any other respondents that we surveyed. So I want to look at the demographics a little bit more closely when it comes to our college students. So this year's survey had a really strong emphasis on the experience of American Jewish college students. As Tom mentioned at the beginning, we've seen an extreme uptick in anti-Semitic behaviors, activities, instances on college campuses all around the US and frankly all around the world. While we've historically asked questions about campus to both students and their parents, we really wanted a robust student sample that we could report on by itself. So we worked with Hillel International to reach hundreds of current or recent college students in order to really parcel out this data set. The findings of the next slide kind of highlight a little bit more of this college sample, but what I want to show here is that 1 in 3 American Jewish college students say they experienced anti-Semitism during their time as a college student. That's huge. A third of our college students are experiencing anti-Semitism in some way while they are attending college. We also asked these students the same question about changing their behaviors. By now, you've hopefully noticed a pattern about asking about changing behaviors, and that there's been a significant increase. 34% of our students avoided wearing, carrying, displaying those Jewish stars, their kippas, anything identifiable. 32% felt uncomfortable or unsafe at a campus event, and 43% avoided expressing their views on Israel or on campus with their classmates, in classes, walking around. And it's just so telling the impact that activities on campus concerning anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism have really impacted our student population. And they're the ones who are bringing this into the next stages of their lives as they graduate and enter into the workforce and become really the next generation to lead the American Jews. So I want to take a second. I know I've thrown out a lot of data points at you that make it seem like there's a little hope, but I want to reassure you that there is, that not all of the information we collected would be bad. And I really want to share with you how the general public views anti-Semitism in the United States and how AJC's ongoing work with allies in all different communities has really made an impact. So we also asked the general public about whether anti-Semitism is a problem in the United States today. The vast majority, as you can see, 7 in 10, think that anti-Semitism in the US today is somewhat or very serious problem, whereas 60% said that in 2021. So we're seeing a big shift in the way that the US general public has acknowledged that anti-Semitism is truly a problem. And 88% of US adults are concerned by the increase in anti-Semitism. This statistic is important because it allows us to really quantify that the vast majority of those who are aware of anti-Semitism find it concerning, and that American Jews are not alone in this fight, that we have allies out there, that the majority of the US general public recognizes what's going on, and we are not alone in this fight. We also asked US adults if they personally saw or heard anti-Semitism in the past year, and almost 4 in 10 US adults said that they had seen anti-Semitism. And we did follow up with this group. And just to note, 70% of them said that they saw it online or on social media. 19% said they said it on the street, heard it from a community leader or someone in the community. 16% said they heard it from family or friends. And 13% said they saw it in a store or a business, either in the window front or a sign on a table. Just want to note, these numbers do not necessarily add up to 100 because people were able to choose more than one. But again, the general US population is noticing that anti-Semitism is a problem, and they're seeing it in the same spaces that a lot of our American Jews are as well. So one of the really amazing things about this survey is looking at different variables together to see how everything is connected. And one of the data points that is really speaks to me is how US adults who know someone Jewish are more likely to have heard what the term anti-Semitism is and what it means, say that anti-Semitism has increased, may have potentially witnessed an anti-Semitic incident and understood that it was anti-Semitic. They're more willing to say anti-Semitism is a problem in the US, and that they're more willing to say the statement that Jews control the media is anti-Semitic, just one of the tropes that we hear very often. This is really the positive impact that we can have by having non-Jewish friends, not only as our allies, but in our daily lives, sharing the experience of what it means to be an American Jew today in the US. So I just really want to emphasize that Everybody can be an advocate, whether you realize it or not, just by sharing your own personal experience with your friends. So again, moving towards a little bit more hope, we're really going to look at a path forward and questions that we asked both our American Jews and our US general public about what it looks like and next steps in understanding the impact of anti-Semitism. So this year, we asked those who we surveyed the role of society in addressing anti-Semitism and whether it was closer to their view of whether anti-Semitism affects society as a whole or anti-Semitism does not affect society as a whole. I just really want to draw your attention to those huge numbers in the left-hand side of the picture on your screen about anti-Semitism affecting society as a whole. This, again, this data point alone truly emphasizes how Jews are not alone and are not responsible for combating hatred and prejudice directed towards our community alone. It's really a vital point for our allies, for our communities, for our legislators and civil leaders and policy leaders to see and understand that the society as a whole, that anti-Semitism is not a battle for the Jews alone. Another question that we asked about other religious and ethnic communities coming together to support in cooperation with each other in battling anti-Semitism, and 9 and 10 say it is important for Jewish communities and other religious and ethnic communities to come together. So this takes me to the last portion of the presentation of what we can each do to better understand anti-Semitism and protect the Jewish community. This is both for the American Jews and for the general public, for allies, and for really anyone who wants to make our society a more secure place. So it really falls on 3 things: recognizing, responding, and preventing. So recognizing and understanding anti-Semitism today is a very complex kind of idea, and it really, at AJC, we rely on the use of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance working definition of anti-Semitism, the IRA working definition, as both an educational resource and a guide. And the reason that we use this definition of anti-Semitism is that it is the most widely used international definition, with more than 30 countries and numerous states and cities around the globe adopting the definition. It itself includes 11 contemporary examples of anti-Semitism and the various forms it can take. Now, EJC has taken this definition and gone one step further, creating our Translate Hate Glossary, which incorporates in over 40 different tropes and terms, words, symbols, phrases of anti-Semitism that one may encounter in any part of their life. We both have a digital version and an interactive online glossary. I put the link is on this page, but there'll be a slide at the end that includes all of the links as well. But it's something that anyone can go into to see whether or not something they're seeing online may be anti-Semitic. So responding and raising awareness is also really important. So speaking out loudly, calling out against all forms of anti-Semitism, and it really makes an impact. So we have tons of different resources in order to help you do that. But the biggest resource you have is just to raise your voice, raise awareness for you and for everyone. Again, we have all of these different resources as you see on the screen through a call to action. If you scan that QR code on the screen, it'll take you right to that page. But some of the things you can do is making sure your school districts are aware of Jewish holidays, especially if there's any Jewish students who may attend the schools, but just generally being aware of the holidays that may impact other schools that they face in sporting events. And we have a ton of different plans and guides that identify, explain, and share about the Jewish holidays in different ways, both in corporate settings and educational spaces, with legislators, all different ways that we've really kind of put it together for you in a nice little package to help you walk through steps in order to raise awareness. It's not all about anti-Semitism all the time, but also about the positive impact that the American Jewish Committee has on society. And again, I mentioned earlier how 78% of American Jews who have seen or experienced anti-Semitism have not reported it. And I wanted to really dedicate this slide just to re-emphasize how important it is to report anti-Semitism, because without knowing all of the instances that exist, it doesn't give the data for our policymakers and our law enforcement officers to have the ability to make a difference and to make change. So this QR code on the screen that you see here will bring you to this link where we walk you through all of the different ways that you can report, both at the local, the state, and the federal level, and ways that we really can be there as a support for anyone who's unsure about reporting as well. And again, I just cannot emphasize enough how important it is to report any instance of anti-Semitism. I know, especially for me, and I've experienced myself, that it often doesn't feel like any action will be taken when something is reported, but it does. Whether you see it immediately or not, every report helps to bring awareness, especially on social media platforms. If you see any instances of anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism, any of the tropes that we explain in our Translate Hate Glossary, that little button about reporting to the algorithms, to the folks at all of the social media platforms, it makes a difference, especially when it's repetitive over and over and over again on a specific post or creator. So preventing anti-Semitism in the future is being prepared for the patterns. So anti-Semitism is at its highest during 4 periods. We see it the most during elections, around the Jewish holidays, especially the high holidays, so the Jewish New Year, Rosh Hashanah, and Yom Kippur. And we also see it during periods of violence in the Middle East. I don't need to tell you all that this past fall, we experienced all 3 of these periods at the same time while the survey was in the field. So I think that that also gives you a very clear and accurate idea of how our respondents were really experiencing all of the different ways in which anti-Semitism, we see those 3 periods really acting up. It's also important to highlight and celebrate Jewish existence. Like I said, the movies, celebrities, people, traditions, holidays, it's not just about combating anti-Semitism, it's also about celebrating. That could be educating folks by bringing them to a forum like this, which I appreciate y'all bringing me in for, or sharing about a holiday, sharing about something about unconscious bias and stereotypes about Jews, checking in about the Jewish holidays before scheduling something, and really, again, just noting the positive. So just a couple of different ways in which you all can continue to make a difference beyond today. Our Leaders for Tomorrow program is an immersive learning and skill building leadership initiative for Jewish high school students. So it's really created to help support Jewish high school students as they build a confident Jewish identity, prepare them to encounter and combat anti-Semitism on college campuses or in the next stage of their life, and develop the skills and tools to advocate for the Jewish people and Israel. It's a 7-month intimate cohort experience, and we have a virtual cohort with students participating from all around the US, and that application is open now. So that QR code on your screen will lead you right to the application, but it's a wonderful opportunity for students to have that engagement with other Jewish high school students, but also to learn from each other. And we have a similar program set up for our adults and young leaders as a part of our Leadership Advocacy and Diplomacy Accelerator. So it's a virtual series designed to provide an exclusive experience into the work of AJC, to bolster knowledge about AJC's work, educating about our signature and nuanced advocacy work, and engaging in actual advocacy sessions. So the virtual accelerator applications are open. Again, the QR code on this screen will bring you right to that application. It's a 3-month program held virtually where we really delve into the different skills and resources available for you to become an advocate in your own community. So I'm going to leave this slide up for a minute. I know it's a lot of information, but I will make sure to share these links as well, but I know that it'll be in the recording too. But these are all of the different resources that I've mentioned throughout the presentation and where you can find them. Even Googling from www.ajc.org will lead you to all of these. There's a great little search function on the screen, and it will, if you put in Translate Hate, it'll pop up the page, but I wanted to leave this here for you all as well. And then just encourage you to please stay in touch. I am happy to be a resource to answer any questions you may have, to guide you, to connect you to the right people. But I encourage you to reach out and to ask any questions that I may not address today, or just to say hi to. That's always welcome and encouraged. And with that, I'm gonna just kind of minimize the screen sharing and open it up for questions.
We think the ceiling microphones are on. It is on now. Okay, so if you do have a question, Rachel should be able to hear it. If not, then I'll just repeat it to her. Rachel, I was hoping we could start. First of all, that was a terrific presentation, very eye-opening, and I think everyone in here is nodding their heads that they really appreciate the time you spent with us and what you shared with us. I was wondering if we could open the questions with um, maybe an understanding of how we can tie or how anti-Zionism or being anti-Israel is also anti-Semitic or anti-Semitism. Personally, I get that question a lot. I'm not Jewish myself, and people will frequently say, "Well, I'm not anti-Jewish. I'm just anti-Israel," and I don't think. Well, they don't always say I don't think they should exist, but they'll rail against the Israeli government or Israel as a state, but express that they're not anti-Semitic at the same time. So can you walk us through that a little bit?
Absolutely. I will give as much of an answer as I can, but I actually think what you just said kind of encompasses a lot of it, that anti-Zionism, we often hear from folks, at least when I'm talking to them, that exact point about being against the Israeli government, but it's talking about a country in general and lumping in an entire country to a government's decisions. The way that I often explain it, especially to our high schoolers, for instance, is that you can have frustrations with your city, your state, your federal government, or governmental officials, but that doesn't mean that you're anti-American. You still believe in the right for the US to exist, but you have differences of opinion or frustrations with the way the government is run. And that's the same idea with anti-Zionism. We often see that folks have frustrations with the Israeli government, but it's when it goes to the point of Israel not having the right to exist is when it flips from being against the Israeli government and to really being anti-Zionism against Israel. And a lot of times it's conflating Israel with the Jewish people in general. And that's where it can often and does become anti-Semitic.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Mike?
Rachel, are you doing these presentations in front of law enforcement groups? Because your statistics here just blew me away. And I'm not sure if law enforcement in general is aware of your stats.
No, that is a really good question. And we are always open to doing more presentations too. So if you have local law enforcement connections, I'm happy to share this information with them as well. But we are very fortunate to have a combating anti-Semitism in the US Department for our entirety of AJC. So we do a lot of presentations at the federal level. We have done presentations in Chicago for the FBI field offices, for local law enforcement, where we try to share these statistics. And again, just want to emphasize this is why it's so important that people are reporting instances of anti-Semitism, or even if they think it might be anti-Semitism, because our statistics, we want them to match what these law enforcement agencies are getting themselves. So we want to do more, and it is important to just be repeating these statistics as much as we possibly can.
Loretta?
Thank you very much for what you told us. Well, I have a question. I've been speaking to high school seniors who are about to go out and become part of our world. And what they see on TV and what they hear is killing innocent people, seniors, grandparents, children, etc. And they're trying to understand, and the whole world is kind of shaky right now. So all the pictures do not show any joy, do not show what we know could be. So we have a world of pictures that show danger. And so when the kids are asking me questions, they're almost afraid to ask in front of their peers. But having been an Italian growing and being part of the mafia, which I want you all to know, I just say that it hurts young people. to be told that they're not good enough or they're not quite something. It hurts them to be different. And how do we change that so they understand we're all the same? We may come from a different house and we may eat a sandwich at noon. That doesn't mean we're different. That doesn't mean we can't work together and we should appreciate it. And maybe the message we're sending out as adults is not as strong enough about the importance of life, the importance of people, and why when you see these pictures, and I understand what they're saying, I see pictures of children lying on the floor, grandmothers and grandfathers lying on the floor, people not having enough food, and it's frightening. So then you have this rebel rising group that we call opportunity on. I'm not in Facebook at all. Just they publicize it. They make it almost exciting. How do we combat that so that we can get back to being nice people? Because I'm sitting in a room of good people who have done a lot in our community, who have nice children and grandchildren. How do you keep them that way? But all you see on TV, all you see everywhere else, all you hear, how do we change?
I'm gonna just paraphrase because I one, thank you for sharing that. But the question I'm hearing, and again, please correct me if I'm mishearing, is how to encourage our young people, especially those who are about to leave high school and go into college, to understand that there is still joy, that people are good, and how do we combat the negative perceptions on social media, especially and in the media generally. Is that correct? Am I capturing that?
Yes.
Okay, great. It's a heavy question, and something that we're still struggling with, I think, at any age. The amount of media attention in a negative way, especially post October 7th, has really impacted folks generally, whether you are Jewish or not. One of the things that I often tell our high schoolers, and I would encourage you all to share with those who are even, might be seniors this year before they go off, if they're interested, I'm happy to connect them with our campus affairs folks, or they're in high school to be a part of our Leaders for Tomorrow program. But one of the things I really try to talk to our students about is having conversations offline is important. So with their friends and making those small differences about, hey, I saw you posted this, it makes me a little uneasy, and here's why. It's not often an easy thing for anyone to do at any age. And again, I understand that, but often those in-person conversations or just noting it to a friend or making someone aware of something makes a huge difference. It might not feel that way, but it really does. And it starts off small. If everybody can make one of those connections with someone else and just sharing a personal experience and letting them know that something makes them uneasy, that's making a huge difference. Now, there's nothing, I can say that will change the national media scope of how things are being viewed. But what I will say is that at AJC, we are working with all of the big social media platforms on how they tweak their algorithms. So when people see things that are anti-Semitic and reporting it, that those things are being flagged in the correct way. Talking with those administrators, those folks who are at, let's say, Facebook, Meta, TikTok, all of the different ways that we connect with folks about just having a better understanding. And it's really working with those companies so that they understand as well and can be more discerning in their own platforms. I don't think that fully answered your question. I wish I had a better one. I think we are all still learning during this time as well about how to help our young folks be prepared. But there's still a lot of uncertainty. So we are just trying to provide them with the skills to be their most confident selves and to have these really difficult conversations should they come up.
Is that question back there?
My name is Nancy.
A whole room half of my ancestry, which was German. And I just come to you, Rachel, and all of those who are here that are Jewish ancestry, your children, your children's children. And I ask your forgiveness for all the things that have happened to you in the past and also in the present. I am grieved by what's happened. And I believe that the way to any kind of reconciliation is to repentance. So I ask for forgiveness of every Jewish person in this room and yourself as well.
I could only hear bits and pieces of that, so I don't know that I heard anything. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she was, correct me if I'm wrong here, she was explaining that her ancestry is German, and she just wanted to express compassion for you and for all Jews in America and in this room too, and just let everyone know that she's with you and supports you.
Oh, thank you. I truly appreciate that. I can speak for myself on that one. But that honestly, that's the best thing that can come out of something like this, of everyone coming together and wanting to make a change and a difference. It's why we do what we do, is working with everyone from every walk of life, every background, Jewish, not Jewish, allies, all welcome in this space as we combat anti-Semitism together. So I appreciate that.
Did I state that well enough? Okay, okay. Tom?
Yes, last year we had passed legislation for mandatory Holocaust education in Iowa. What is AJC doing and other Christian organizations doing to see that states implement mandatory Holocaust education? So when our students get off to college, they can have a better understanding of what happens when people stay silent, when they're facing anti-Semitism, anti-Zionism.
That's incredible that legislation has been passed, first and foremost. So that right there is a wonderful step in the right direction. So we have an AJC Center for Education and Advocacy that works specifically with K through 12 institutions and states who have enacted Holocaust education requirements and legislation, as well as campuses, to really help provide the resources to ensure that it's incorporated in the right way. So it's really, we are here and happy to connect with the legislators at the local level, at state level, wherever those pockets might be, just to really help provide a guide as to what that Holocaust education might look like. So I am happy to follow up afterwards if you want to reach out and we can set something up, but it's really something where we are poised to be that resource. It's one of our biggest things for us as AJC. We collect all of this data in order to help others implement. We don't, we're a small but mighty organization, but we need all of the partnerships that we can get, whether that's in Iowa, whether that's in Abu Dhabi, whether that's in Singapore. We are welcoming and encouraging to have those boots on the ground, really making the changes and just providing the ways in which that change can happen.
Marnie?
Hi, Rachel. My name is Marnie. And first of all, thank you so much for doing what you do. Recently, I learned that there was a local theater called Facet in Chicago. And they're going to be showing Israeli film called Bring Them Home. And 4 hours prior to the showing, they canceled, stating that they were, what was it? I know you're familiar with it. Maybe you'd like to talk about it, because I think it'd be a great example of how we, the public, when we find out something like this happened, we can voice our concerns against it and squash it. So maybe you'd like to just share us a little story about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm happy to. And Marty, it's wonderful to meet you as well. And thank you for bringing this up. Actually, AJC was planning to be a sponsor of the film for Kosher Dills, who is a rapper and a social media influencer who has been working diligently on creating his first documentary, really focusing on the anti-Semitism Jewish students are experiencing on campuses. So the reason that this first showing was going to be in Chicago is that he captured a lot of perspectives around the encampments at DePaul University in Chicago. So he really wanted to start there. So one of the things that I, want to just say for this is that it's a really great example of what happens behind the scenes versus what we see. So Facets did cancel the showing with a little reason as to why in terms of publicly. So we worked both with our partners at the Chicago Jewish Alliance, with Kosher Dills himself, as well as the Facets leader, to really understand what was going on. And I think we put out a statement from AJC condemning the cancellation. Chicago Jewish Alliance did, Kosher Dills did, just kind of highlighting how their mission statement didn't align with what it was that they were saying. As an organization that promotes free speech, that they were kind of silencing that based on the fact that this documentary was about anti-Semitism and that the creator was Jewish himself. In the aftermath and having this being reposted so many times on Instagram and people reaching out, conversations have been happening offline with Facets and Kosher Dills to have him come back and show the documentary, and really having them take a look at their own internal functions as to how things are being dealt with and screened to ensure that all artists are welcome in their space to show their things. So it's an ongoing conversation that we are having, but again, to Marty, to your point, it really does show how raising your voice to something that is anti-Semitic when a situation comes up makes a difference. And we have found that sometimes as at AJC, we may take a moment before we put out a statement because we want to make sure that we're seeing the full picture, which is what we did here. So it took us a couple of hours to put all the pieces together. But having so much community support and frustration about a situation like this really opened the door for further conversations to make sure that something like this doesn't happen again.
Esther, did you have a question?
Yeah. It seems to me that the most anti-Semitic activities are occurring on college campuses, especially the big prestigious universities. What is being done to identify who the ringleaders of that are? And as I understand, some of them are actual faculty at these universities. And what's being done to stop that? Because I think that's really intimidating to students if they're hearing it from faculty.
Absolutely. It's been difficult to see for sure that faculty have been engaging in these encampments and anti-Semitic activities all across the country and really all across the world as well. For us at AJC, our biggest thing has been focusing on the administration and working with them to understand and implement the code of conducts, the legislation, the reporting mechanisms in place to ensure that instances like this don't happen again, or should they happen, that there are ways to protect their Jewish students and to encourage reporting. So we, again, our Center for Advocacy and Education can't emphasize them enough because they do incredible work. They hold presidential symposiums every year with over 100 different university presidents and administrators to talk about all of these things, to go through the different ways in which responding to anti-Semitism looks like at small institutions, large institutions, everywhere in between, whether it's Loyola University, Northwestern, Columbia, whoever it might be. We can't interact with every single student and every single faculty member. So by having those conversations at the top levels and having it trickle down, talking with trustees and boards and different administrators, it really does make a difference. I'll give you an example. We work very closely with Loyola University here in Chicago. Their vice president for student affairs is a very big advocate of ours who has had to deal with some unfortunate instances of anti-Semitism on campus, and they have responded in such a beautiful way, really following the AJC playbook that we've shared as a resource for them about how to address their community, how to share the ways that they are keeping their students safe, the procedures that are in place as much as they can share with all of the different federal and HIPAA violations, and so that, keeping that in mind, but really making their students feel that they have a voice in a way that they can express their frustrations, should they, or if they continue to experience anti-Semitism. But again, it's a continually active process that we are doing, but that top-down approach we have found to have a really big impact.
We have time for one last question.
Was the assistant chief of police in Des Moines. I can tell you here, it's a smaller thing than New York and some of these other places. But we would have known if there were massive demonstrations on, say, Drake University campus with people that appeared to be from foreign countries, we would have known that. And that information would be available to the public and to other people. And that's the way it looks to me, is that a good percentage of the money and the people that are running around raising hell in these universities, and the press is repeating, are people, significant number anyway, are people from foreign countries. And I would think that we ought to be able to stop that. If we can't, then the federal money that's going to those colleges should go to the University of Iowa or some other.
I will say that that goes beyond my scope of knowledge, specific to any good universities. But I think, again, it's working. There was an earlier question about putting this presentation and our statistics in front of law enforcement, having the conversations with university and college administrators. The more that we can share and be a resource and really highlight the experiences that these college students are having on campus. Our partner at Hillel International especially is doing an incredible job of the day-to-day care and feeding of our students on campuses, but ensuring that we are also sharing this information at those high levels so that it trickles down for when instances occur is really important. But again, that specific question is not my area of expertise. Otherwise, I could try to give you a more robust answer, but it's really just getting in front of the folks who can make a difference.
Rachel, thank you very much.
So grateful for you all having me again. If there's any questions, please let me know, and I'm happy to continue the conversation.
Great. Thank you all for joining us today. We really appreciate it. If I could have your attention for one more second, please. I just want to put a plug in for Iowans Supporting Israel. Thank you for being here. We're a bipartisan nonprofit organization. We like to use luncheons like this as a forum to increase awareness and grow support for Israel. If you're so moved, we would certainly appreciate a contribution. And I want to thank you again for being here. And next time, I want to challenge you to everyone bring one friend. If not to this next meeting, to the one we have after that. We don't have anything scheduled yet, but as soon as we do, we'll let you know. And we will send out information that Rachel shared with us today via email. So if you're not on our email list yet, go to iowansupportingisrael.com and sign up to be on our email list. Thank you. And for those who can stick around, Rabbi wants to say one thing.
I want to just share a couple of thoughts. I'm not speaking in any official capacity for Iowans Supporting Israel. My name is Neil Schuster. I'm the rabbi at Temple B'nai Yeshurun, but I don't have special authority. Heck, I'm not even the only rabbi in the group. So, but there are a couple of things. One is I hope that no one walks away from here looking at those statistics and seeing. We want your sympathy. Feel bad for us because we feel we perceive things as anti-Semitic, but rather understand for us, for your friends, it's a little bit of a scary time to be Jewish, which I never thought I would experience in my lifetime, ever. I didn't grow up experiencing that at all, but it's a scary time to be Jewish and to understand that. And in particular, I wanted to respond to the person who said they're from a German background and asking our forgiveness. And unfortunately, it's a principle of Jewish theology that I cannot forgive someone for what they did to someone else. All the more so, I cannot forgive you for what perhaps your ancestor did, perhaps to my ancestor. So that's a challenge. But here's what I will tell you, because hope and optimism is essential, that your being here today, that it's not an act of atonement entirely, it's rewriting the story of your background. that the story of whatever may be in your background didn't end with them, but it continues, and your being here is a part of that and rewriting it for something optimistic and embracing of who we are together as human beings and as a community. I just wanted to say.